Hey, this is Notser, and this is the Tier 8 Premium Japanese Destroyer, Asashio. As far as a build for the Asashio, honestly, I would just use my Shimakaze, Yugamo, any typical Japanese destroyer build. If you typically use radiolocation on your Japanese, well, it's probably going to be really bad for the Asashio because these torpedoes cannot damage destroyers or cruisers. So we're left with doing a buttload of damage against battleships and aircraft carriers. These are the most deadly torpedoes in the game against those two classes. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to run into an aircraft carrier most of the time. This is really a battleship counter, and I don't really like that. I prefer ships that can meld their playstyle based on the matchup. Yeah, sure, there are ships that are better and more extreme, but I feel the most comfortable when I can do damage to everyone and be effective against everything. I prefer that. That's my playstyle. Obviously, I'm going to go towards ships that do that, and this does not. This is a ship that really needs one specific matchup, and if it doesn't get that matchup, it is disappointed. And speaking of matchups, this is a really bad ranked ship. Really, really bad, especially on North America, where I think we get, 2 battleships on average in ranked season? If you only have 2 valid targets, and no aircraft carriers, obviously, in North America, 2 valid targets for your torpedoes, and you can't play the objective, boy, you are just taking a spot on your team. It's really disappointing that this was the ship that was introduced for ranked season, as if that was to encourage players to purchase it. I understand timing and all that stuff. It just didn't work out in their favor. You're going to run into players who do have the Asashio in ranked, and you need to take advantage of that. If you're a DD and a cruiser, you punish. You rush them, you take them down. They are terrified of you. If you're a battleship, you're probably not going to get close to them unless you can confirm that they've used their torpedoes, or you have the benefit of screening cruisers or destroyers. So ranked season, it's a really bad matchup to bring this. As far as random battles are concerned, though, it's all about what you queue into. If you queue into maybe an Italian battleship line being released, and you have 5 and 6 battleships per side, well, you're going to be very happy. If you queue in and a new DD line or a new cruiser line was introduced, well, you're not going to be very happy. You're going to be very sad. So all that has to be considered. I feel like overall, I'm happy that they at least let us see what a Japanese deep water torpedo could look like in damage output and detectability. But I hope that Wargaming is more interested in making the ships more balanced overall in their impact. Like, I kind of feel like if they dial back the torpedoes' effectiveness and dial up the guns, it would have been more interesting for me personally. So that's where I sit at the ship. I definitely think that some community contributors overact. I mean, that's their shtick, right? I guess they do overact. But for me, it's going to be very little, if any, competitive impact whatsoever. Ships like the Loyang are far more important to competitive than these could ever be. Even the light cruiser line for the Americans, that is going to be way more impactful to competitive balance, and that's more important, right? It's more important that competitive is balanced. Random is a little bit more Wild West, but that's because people are actively progressing their ship lines. They're trying out premiums that they just want to have fun with, or they're just playing 1 or 2 games after coming home from work. It's not a big deal if a ship exists in 1 or 2 battles every once in a while that really shakes up the way you address it. I'm not one of those that feels like, oh god, this is going to make battleships play 20 kilometers. So what made them play for the team? Mostly. Let's be completely frank. They're probably the most selfish class in the game. They don't have a lot of consumables by design, and I think that's fair. And they're really slow. So once they commit, they are committed. I think their playstyle is fair, considering that's their design. But let's not act like, oh yeah, Battleship is completely, for the team and has always been for the team. No, Battleships have always been for themselves, predominantly. And that's okay. If they've got the team support, they definitely will probably be more inclined to push forward. DDs and cruisers are going to be more interested in screening when they know, it's an Asashio. Who gives a crap about that? It can't hurt me at all. It's got Japanese guns, I'll gladly push forward. So it might end up being that DDs and cruisers will be more aggressive in their counterplay of a ship like this because they know they are so incredibly powerful compared to this platform against them. I think the Pan-Asians are a better example of what I want in a deep water torpedo. They've got American guns, they've got deep water torpedoes that also damage cruisers, and they have great smoke. And you could decide to use radar. I just think that that's a better, more well-balanced platform, and honestly, it's scarier to me. As a battleship, as a cruiser, even as a DD. So I'm not gonna feel like, oh man, this is just a unique experience. It gives us an opportunity to see the deep water torpedo. I personally don't like it, but I could see players being interested in something like this. Maybe they just hate battleships to the core and they want to be able to do something about it. Well, you could definitely do something about it given the right matchup. And the right matchup is, hopefully, there's only battleships left on the enemy team. You're given a flank where you can send torpedoes at them. They really are out in the open, but they'd be out in the open for a Pan-Asian or an American or a German or, well, let's not act like the Japanese torpedoes are as effective as they should be, but you get the idea. If a battleship's on a flank and he doesn't have anyone screening, he's going to be dead either way. Unless he can get lucky, if he got something, anything, radar, aircraft, friendly DD that, comes into the picture, then maybe he could be more effective. So, for most of this game, I was trying to keep my influence at B. I wanted to stall it out as much as I could, considering the ship. You can't do a lot against the DDs or the cruisers. But you can use your concealment, as the Shimas are discovering, with the 5.6 on the Shima. I will be making a video on that. I really do like that change. It was a very healthy change. But having good concealment allows you to at least try and spot the DD that is leading their flank. You have enough concealment against your matchups that you could theoretically spot them, but stay about 200 or 300 meters away from them, safely spotting. And that's the most important thing that you can honestly provide against DDs or cruisers. But, it's a ship that exists in the game. Not personally my style, but other players will love it to death, and that's great. I really appreciate that Wargaming introduces variety in their ship designs. They could have easily made them all basically carbon copies of each other, very tiny adjustments, but the ships feel a lot different, and I really enjoy that part of the game. I'm definitely into variety over a single, really fun experience. I get bored. I get bored very quickly, and I just can't put up with playing the same experience all the time. So I appreciate the deep water on the Japanese. It's nice to see, and it's really deadly. So, if in the future they have a Japanese deep water torpedo, maybe they dial it back to maximum 12 kilometers, or maybe 6 kilometers, or something to compensate. Maybe that's the direction they want to go. I'm going to assume that the Japanese deep water torpedoes will only be able to damage battleships and aircraft carriers, and my feeling on that is it puts you into a really limited box. It's probably too limited, in my opinion. It just makes it to where if you can't immediately convert to 1, 2, 3 battleship kills in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, it really feels very useless. And I don't like when a DD feels useless in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game. And I already kind of feel that way sometimes with the Japanese, just because their torpedoes are so easy to spot. You know, that's the other side of the coin. Yeah, sure, they can damage everything, but they're seen a mile away. And there's just no way that the enemy is going to fall for that. So they're a conundrum. It's not the worst, it's not the best. I still love my Japanese. I just wish that it would have been a little bit more torpedo focused, you know, maybe a little bit more on the torpedoes, less on the guns, because, you know, they try and buff the guns, but they give up so much compared to every other DD. You're not going to openly fire unless you have a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 advantage, or you're in smoke. And that's definitely how it feels. So we just got the aircraft carrier. Can damage him, of course. I'm going to use my torpedo reload boost. And I'm going to be able to have more torpedoes ready to go. I expected that the aircraft carrier would detect my torpedoes and then dodge accordingly. But I'm going to openly fire my guns. They're pretty accurate. They do pretty good damage. They just have a really slow rate of fire and really slow turret traverse. What else is there to say about the Japanese? So, I don't know why this guy's naked, by the way. I'm thinking about this while I'm watching this and giving my thoughts on the ship. It's like, why is the aircraft carrier completely naked? And it looks like he's going to dodge my first set. And I think, unfortunately, he's going to dodge my second set as well, because I gave enough of a gap that he'll fit perfectly in it, and it's just like, oh my god, are you kidding me? So, even with these deep water torpedoes, it's clear that they're against battleships. Aircraft carrier has a lot of free detection. That they're not going to fall for a lot of deep water torpedo stuff, but battleships, yeah, you're pretty much out of luck if one of these gets you in the open and no support. You're just gonna die. You just have to try your best to impact other parts of the game, and that's just the design of the ship. So I hope it was interesting to hear my thoughts on it. I know that many of you might disagree or completely agree. That's fine. I just want to give you my experience while playing the ship in its pre-release state. It is out right now in all regions. If you're interested in purchasing it, I think it's about $40 or $50 US, and you know, it's a tier 8. So I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And yeah, we obviously huge impact. I was able to play the objective a little bit more than typical Asashios would, and I was happy. It worked out okay. Didn't do as much torpedo damage as I would like, but I was impactful and I enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.